So why do we have too few women leaders in tech? Different studies from the US and European companies have shown that women represent around 41% in science and technology. But with time, these numbers go down. Several studies from the HBR research suggest that over time, 52% of women leave their jobs because of the hostile work environment. So today we will try to understand why it's happening. My name is Lesia Dimid, and I'm your host on this channel about innovation and technology. And my guest today is Mary Patry, a founder and IT executive advisor at IT Effectivity. She is a coach for executives and team leaders who want to enhance their leadership skills and achieve new professional goals. Also, she is the leader for Women in IT Mastermind program, where she helps females to build their way up in the leadership positions. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here with you.
So, Mary, you work both with men and women in the executive positions, with the project leaders and teams, helping them to improve their leadership skills and achieve goals. So what motivates you to do what you do?
Well, to answer that question, if I could digress a little bit and to share some of my background. I came out of IT. I am an IT practitioner by trade, having spent 40 years as an IT practitioner, leader, executive. And when I started in IT, there was very few, if no women. In 2008, and before I had a female peer, and that is having started in IT in 1977. And so over the years, it's been a source of passion for me, and a question that I ask very often: where are the women? As a consultant and now a coach, one of the first things that I seek to discover when I'm working with an organization, what their diversity profile looks like. And I say diversity holistically, as a diverse cultural and perspective, be it gender, race, whatever, culture, whatever. I have that when an organization is diverse, their aptitude, their capability for creative thinking expands exponentially. And so in the case of sticking with the females, with women in IT, it is particularly frustrating to me because women bring so much to the table when it comes to their innate skills. As you know, it is not a we or a them, it's an us. Women bring to the table skills that augment and complement the innate skills of males. Women are much more, have a lot higher empathy, are much more adept at process orientation. And I will call what I like to call web thinking. It is scientifically a fact that the way women think is in multi-dimensions, whereas men think very linear. We need that linear thinking. We need the skills that men bring to the table just as much as the skills that women bring to the table. It just expands our total capability when we have a diverse group of people who are providing that, the leadership of an organization. So today, there is, the numbers you mentioned are spot on. In leadership roles, we're sitting around 19% in the US of women in a leadership role, and much less when they are in the executive leadership role. As far as the women in IT, we can't seem to get beyond 26%. And I particularly am very concerned because of the impact of COVID, those numbers are going to go down, because women are taking the brunt of the impact from the COVID pandemic.
What are the major differences between male and female leaders? Maybe it's about their leadership style or attitudes or behaviors.
Well, generalizing is the only way I could answer that question. And it's just a generalization. I will typically find that women are much more focused on the why and the outcome, whereas men will be very focused on just getting it done. It is very common for a male leader to be more directive and to dictate the way something has to be done, where a woman will typically, and I like to use those words typically, be more open to the creativity and the collaboration with the employee, thus resulting in a more engaged employee. So women have a higher chance because of that inclusion, that natural nurturing of advocating for the employee in order to take ownership and develop the how they're going to go about doing something. Whereas a male is much more directive, not as inclusive in the how something gets done.
Yeah. So we definitely see the difference in approaching the tasks and difference in doing things. So, and we also know, and you mentioned previously, that the women are underrepresented in tech and IT. And then the numbers are really low when we speak about the females in leadership and executive positions. What are the main reasons why we need to have women leaders and executives?
Well, we need women leaders for the reasons I just mentioned. Because of the diversity of thinking that they bring to the table, the yin and the yang, the creativity to offset the directive side. It's not anything magical. It's simplistically rounding out the whole. And if we're in a situation where it's always just males in that leadership role, it is not expanding the thinking of the organization as a whole.
What would be your advice for a woman leader that wants to show her credibility and knowledge skills in the workplace?
Well, it really starts with their self-talk. Women, the way they present themselves at the table, and really starts with the conversations that they have with themselves. One of the areas that is when I'm working with women in a coaching capacity, I will ask questions such as, tell me about your behavior when you enter a meeting room or when you take ownership of a particular initiative. And it really has to do with focusing on the value, their own value internally, because without that confidence, you will never have the confidence in order to stand up and stand out in a room where you are being highly critiqued. So it really starts with women taking ownership of their confidence and doing what they need to do in order to assure that the conversation they're having with themselves is one of positivity and confidence in their capability. Because as soon as we don't demonstrate confidence, it shows through. It shows through very loud and clear. Diversity is not an HR issue. We would like the HR to fix it for us. The challenge is this is an age-old issue that is continually evolving. I have also found that women supporting women is a magical. Who is your mentor? Who is the person that you can confidently, who will call you on your crap in a way that is constructive, so that you can continue to develop your confidence in speaking up and speaking out. So it's a very complex answer. The other thing that women will do that we will work on is their directness in the conversation. We like to explain the background. We like to say the why behind something prior to saying the what. And in the business arena, it is typically something that men will, call out as, oh my God, there she goes again. Just as I am now, trying to explain the why behind it. It's just this like, this is what it is, really pausing, and then taking it down the alley of the why, having the confidence that you don't need to explain everything to everyone. You know, it is what it is. And if someone needs to know more about it, they, trusting that they'll ask. So it's a behavioral thing, women taking accountability for their behavior, as well as a cultural acceptance of the way that men will act. Now, may I go into that conversation around men's behavior and what women should or should not expect from a male? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Men will often, male, at least in my witnessing and the conversations I've had with my coaching clients, there is a expectation from a male that he needs to explain what a woman is trying to say. The more that we give them that opportunity, the more it's going to happen. And you could see I've emphasized many times the accountability of the woman to take control of a situation. So one of the most reoccurring, even today, after all these years, is the whole concept of a man needing to explain, or, culturally, we like to refer to that as mansplaining. It is a behavior that, oh my gosh, I still get that. Even after all these years, of 45 years, I'm in a committee and I will get that, where a man needs to explain what I just said. And I have found that there are tactics for managing those behaviors and setting the expectation going forward, very simplistically, by saying very politely, thank you for that explanation. I'll continue. Not dwelling on it, but really calling it out, and if it continues again, then I'll say something a little more curt of saying, wow, would you like to take the floor now? And just pause and shut up. Because it's really calling out the behavior of our male colleagues. Now how does that play into this whole conversation? It's respect. I believe from the bottom of my heart that a woman leaves the workforce in their mid-career for several reasons. One of them is respect. When you don't feel respected, when you allow yourself not to be respected, it's really frustrating. And it's like, what am I doing here? Let me just move on. The second reason that I believe that women are leaving the workforce in mid-career is lack of support from family support. Let's break it down. As an IT professional, as a technology professional, you have a hard job. In most cases, the role within IT is a 24/7 role. You are expected to be available for after-hours support. I know that. I did that with little kids. My kids, could tell you funny stories of missed birthdays, of missed Christmases, where mom got called into work or mom had to go into work because of something broken. Keeping in mind, we didn't have the online technology that we did today. There's a lot of great advantages they had of their moms in their role, but they said growing up, there was no way they were ever going to be in IT because of the life that I demonstrated for them. Thank God for my parents, because I could not have done it without their support. And if your husband, and if you don't have external support, what else are you going to do but to find a different career?
Yeah.
So between respect and lack of support, I believe that is the reason why so many women leave the workforce in that age range that you mentioned. And I am finding that age range to be in the 30 to 35-ish age range, because that's when you're starting to have children and having to balance everything else in life.
Yeah, I love these answers, and I would like that we spend a little bit more time on this question of self-confidence and self-doubt, because I think it starts from, as you mentioned, it starts from you having this confidence. So how can women who don't really have this knowledge about how to build self-confidence can really do the work to build their confidence?
It starts with exploring the why behind it. The why is often deeply rooted in behaviors from earlier in their life, in the way that they were treated by their own families and, their parents and their siblings. So, one is just exploring that and searching for, through conversation and through realization, and that's where the coaching will come into play, is them discovering that the thoughts that they had are really not founded. And it's not psychotherapy. It's certainly not at all. It's just taking your past learnings and applying them to your future learnings and your future goals. So if you were always treated as a princess growing up, if you were treated as fragile, if you were treated as somebody who had to be taken care of, what kind of confidence are you going to have when you are out and about on your own? It's going to be really stilted because of the expectation that I needed to be taken care of. I needed to be treated like a princess. So it's really, discovering, as part of our coaching work, what are your needs versus your wants, and how do you overcome those needs that are holding you back in order to get what you want? And what is real versus what is perceived. Yeah. If you are living on your own and you are taking care of yourself, then you can. So it's really, and it's practicing techniques, such as positive affirmations, journaling, really exploring what is it that is keeping you from seeing you the way others see you.
Yeah.
And if you see yourself in that positive light first.
Yes. So you also mentioned the importance of support from your family and from others. So I wanted to ask you about the role of mentors and mentorship, and why it's important, and possibly you can give some advice how to find a mentor at workplace or maybe outside in the community, because alone you cannot really achieve the success in the career, especially if you're a female.
Well, it's interesting because there's two things that a woman will need as for that support. And one is a mentor and the other is a sponsor. So let's take those separately. A mentor is someone who typically works in your field, who has experience to share and is willing to impart that experience on you. The person that you can go to in a safe manner and ask for advice on a particular topic. It could be and it doesn't have to even be just work. It could be you need mentors for all kinds of things in your life. But since we're talking about work, we'll focus on work. A mentor is someone who is more experienced than you, who has wisdom to impart, and who is open to share that wisdom with you. And for you, without expectation that you'll do what they say they did. So it's not a matter of them giving you the cookbook. It is sharing with you their experience and what they did about it in the past. So a mentor is extremely critical. Discovering a mentor does not need to be in your workplace. It could be somebody that you have met at a conference. It is someone that you have met outside of work. The key is, though, that they have experience in the area that you need mentoring in. So, I can't go to my, a really good friend of mine is a virologist. I talk to her about medical things, but I can't, I can't go, and she's not going to be my mentor when it comes to IT things. So many times, we are a mentor to someone and we expect someone else to be a mentor. And it doesn't always have to be a formal acknowledgement that she's my mentor in this, but that she's your go-to person for a particular topic. So you can have lots of mentors. And again, I network. I think mentors that are outside of your place of work are fabulous. And that's one of the problems. A lot of women, most women have a hard time finding the time to mentor because of their family situation, because of their job situation. There's all kinds of reasons. And they're also not real comfortable getting out and about, talking at those networking events. So that's the mentoring side of it. The other thing that women are way less apt to have is a sponsor. That is the number one reason why men will advance more than a woman, because they most often will have a sponsor where a woman will not. Sponsors are a whole lot harder to deal with. As different from a mentor, a sponsor doesn't have anything to do with your current role. They're not the person who's going to give you that advice. They're the person who's going to advocate for you. They're the person who's going to say, I was really impressed with the way Lizzie did this. I'm going to keep an eye on her. You don't ever ask for a sponsor. You demonstrate your capability, and a sponsor adopts you more naturally. It's a really hard pill to take when I tell folks, or when I suggest to folks, or I, advise them, who's your sponsor? And they'll go, my sponsor? Who should I ask to be my sponsor? No, you don't ask someone to be your sponsor. It's how you behave. And if we're always on our most positive behavior and working at 110%, someone will notice that you're a sponsor. And if they don't notice, help them to notice. How do you do that? This could be something in the form of, wow, about this, this department or role. What would you like to, what should I know about that department or about that function that would help me to be considered for that position the next time there's an opening? What do you think I should work on? Notice that subtlety. I'm not asking you to be my sponsor, but I'm seeking your advice as to what I need to do in order to be considered. That is telling the person, oh, she wants to be considered. And a lot of women have said to me, man, I'm not going to do that. I'm telling you, your male counterparts are doing that. It's speaking out on your behalf, letting someone know. It doesn't have to be blatant whiny. It's letting the person know that you have an interest in moving up. I can't tell you the number of women that have said to me, they have left a job and their employer said to them, I didn't know you wanted to do that. And I'll say, why didn't they know that you wanted to do that? Did you ever tell them? Well, no, I should have to tell them. Well, we do. We have to speak up on our behalf. So mentor, find that person who has the skills, who could be your go-to person. They don't need to be your formal mentor. It's your go-to person for advice on a topic, who has more experience and that you've admired their style, observe the way they're operating, etc. And then your sponsors, that person who is going to advocate for you when the time comes, to be considered for promotion.
Yeah. How difficult it would be to build your career without sponsor and mentor?
I think impossible. I really do. It seems so contrived. I get it. I spent a good number of my years of my career saying, if I do a good job, someone should notice. Have you ever said that to yourself? All I have to do is do a good job and they're going to notice. You know what? They're busy doing their own job. So it's really I can remember the very first time I was asked to be, I was invited to take on a supervisory role when I was a young pup. And I was very young, let me tell you. I was called the girl, because I was the only girl, as they called me, in the department. And I'll never forget it when the head of IT, data processing in those days, said to me, we would like you to take on this supervisory role. And I went, why me? All these guys are vying for that role and competing for that role. And man, they're going to be really mad if you ask me to do this. And, he said to me, because you have demonstrated X, Y, and Z. And I seriously, I went, I did. I did. He goes, and I actually turned the job down. I said, no, I don't think so. These guys are going to be too mad. I was 27 years old. I said, they're going to be really pissed. I didn't use that word. And he said, do you trust me? I said, yes. Well, yes. Of course I said, yes. Yes, I trust you. He was the head of the department. And he goes, okay, then just go along with me on this one. You're going to take the job. Okay. And I was scared to death. So what did I do? I went and found people that were supervisors, not in IT, because there wasn't any in IT I was going to go talk to about this and let them know I was vulnerable. I went to talk to supervisors elsewhere and sought their advice as to what I should do, how was I going to behave. And I didn't go find another woman, because there wasn't any women to talk to, but I did find men who managed technology people in a different department, outside of IT and engineering, is to give my advice. They became my mentors when it came to supervisory of technology people, because I didn't have that experience myself. The advice they gave me, I remember to this day. And the most important was, take care of your team and they'll take care of you. And it was like, wow, that's simple. If all I have to do is take care of someone, that's easy for me. But at the same time is being direct and taking ownership and accountability for their outcomes. So there's, I think it's impossible. You know what? You have convinced me. It is impossible to expand your career without a mentor. And it's darn near impossible not to expand your career without an advocate. You will be fighting uphill the whole entire way, just pushing uphill. And you know what? It'll get so tired that you'll say, hell with this. I'm going to stay home and be a housewife or mom. But there's nothing wrong with being a housewife or mom if that's the right thing for you. But when you do it because you don't have you feel like you don't have any other recourse, gosh, that's sad. I think it's sad.
It's actually what I personally think, that it will be very hard or maybe even impossible to do that without support. And I think we as women are not really into this fight mode when we need to fight and spend all our energy and resources fighting for something which maybe doesn't bring any value or any happiness.
Yeah, you're spot on there, Lesbia. I don't believe that most women are fighters by nature, whereas men are ready to take it all on in a fight mode. And I don't think it's because we're not competitive. I know very competitive women. I think it's just really, is it worth it? We're just like, we'll give up on that fight. And we should give up on that fight if we're not making any headways. Only so many times you could hit your head against the wall and feel good about it. If you're not showing progress, if you're not being demonstrated respect, if you're not moving along. And I do believe that that's the role of the manager, is to understand where every employee, regardless of what, their gender is, where they are on their career trajectory. We move up we learn on an S curve. When we're first learning, that's good enough. We are going to feel good about it. And then when we move up that curve and we see that progress, that's good enough. When we hit the top of that plateau of the S and we stagnate there, we won't sit there too long until we start either downsliding or getting out. And it's really important for every manager to know where every employee is on their S curve so that they can be helping them. That's the major role of a manager, is to help an employee be successful in the job. Because as my old mentor told me, if I take care of them and they're doing a great job, they are making me look good. And it's so hard for managers and leaders to get that they have got so much power in their hands if they just care about their people.